his family, his father, the progenitors of Bartimaeus. Timaeus was a family line that was taken for granted. They were taken for granted, and yet it was a family line that was committed to God, but they were always overlooked. And Timaeus' son, Bartimaeus, was born blind. And there was a scourge that was on Bartimaeus with this blindness. Because everyone thought, see, we were right that knew there was something wrong with you. Son was born blind. Somehow God has hexed him or marked him. And so Timaeus never believed that. He never believed that. He would always say, God's going to move on our behalf, son. God's going to do something for us, son. God is going to restore our name. And God's going to do. Well, how do you know? Because Timaeus, the name Timaeus means to be highly favored. So he says somehow God is going to show his favor. And so he put this in his son that was blind for many years. And this blind Bartimaeus heard that Jesus was coming into his town, and he was limited to being on the outside. They didn't allow him on the inside because he was blind. He was disqualified from being amongst the normal people, if you will. But when he heard Jesus walking throughout the crowds, he started crying out unto the Lord, "Thou Son of David!" It was the first time anybody spoke of Jesus, identifying a messianic passage to the identity of who Jesus was. Why? Because his father gave him some word and taught him who Messiah was, who this individual was. And Jesus is walking through the crowd, and people are thronging him, and nothing's really happening. And as he moves through the crowd, he keeps crying out, "Thou Son of David!" And Jesus stops, and he looks behind him, and he begins to scan the crowds because someone is calling. Someone is recognizing him in his identity. And as Jesus stops and he turns around and he's looking at the crowd, the people see, oh, Jesus has been interrupted in what he is doing. So the crowd starts screaming back, "Hey, be quiet back there. Hey, silence yourself back there. You need to stop screaming out. You're distracting the master." And thank God Bartimaeus understood the word, because this guy had some hope in his spirit. See, he was blind. He couldn't have faith in his blindness because he didn't want to believe he was going to stay blind. He had hope that he can change this. He had hope that something would transform in his life. And so the Bible says when I told him to be quiet, because he had that hope, he started screaming louder. He said, "You mean I stopped him?" He said, "I'm halfway there." He said, "Thou Son of David!" Watch what he says. "Have mercy on me." I told you God's greatest attribute is his mercy. His greatest attribute is his mercy. When he said, "Have mercy on me," you see in the Greek, there's two different Greek words for mercy. There is one word in Greek for mercy that deals with man and simply means to have sympathy for people. But there's another Greek word for mercy that's associated to God. And it's not sympathy, it's empathy. It's to actually feel the pain of the individual and where they're at. And so when blind Bartimaeus said, "Thou Son of David, I know who you are. Have mercy on me. I know how much you love me," is what he was saying. And the Bible says that they turned around and told him to be quiet. And Jesus said, "Bring him to me." Huh? See, you got to learn how to shout. You've got to learn how to praise. You got to learn how to cry out to God. Even when the devil tells you shut up and be quiet, people look at you, you're getting on our nerves. If Jesus is hearing you, and if you can stop him, you need to learn how to praise and worship him. Then all of a sudden, in the midst of all of what was happening, they come over to him and they grab him and they pick him up. He says, well, I'm not going to stop. He goes, no, listen, I'm not going to. No, listen for a minute. What? He said, the master calleth for thee. The master calleth for thee. He says, all right, wait a minute. Our master's calling for me. I'm ready to go. Wait, help me out here. Help me out here. Get this off of me. Get this off. The master's calling. No, get this off. You got to get this off of me. Get this off me. Get this thing off me. Get it off me. But that's your coat. I don't want my coat. Get it off of me. Get it off. Okay, take me to the master. Take me to the master. And he went over there and he was led to the master. But you know why he threw off his coat? Because blind people had a garment that marked them, that let everybody know that they were blind. And he had not just faith, he had hope. Because he knew when the master called him, his hope was calling for him, saying, I'm not going to need this jacket anymore because I'm not staying blind anymore. Because he's called me forward. There is hope for humanity. And the master touched him and healed him. And Bartimaeus becomes a witness to us that if we get a revelation that Christ has come, and if we get a revelation and understand that there is now hope for all humanity, there's nothing that our God cannot do. We can have the greatest revival that we have ever had. We can have the greatest breakthrough that we have ever had.